So to follow up on that point, do you think the founders were concerned about that principle of expansionism as an issue that would prevent successful Republican government? In other words, address Federalist 9 head on?
Well, yes, definitely. And I think that's what was unique about what the founders created, a system wherein we could expand as in both a financial and trading way, like other powers that had expanded were maritime republics and systems wherein trade could happen, free trade could happen. And also we have this concept of a politician, of someone who goes and it's their job to know the issues for their constituents so that they can represent their constituents in another place and they can know the issues better than citizens.
In Federalist 9, Alexander Hamilton was adamant that we will make this work. We will make this work no matter what. We are going to expand. We are going to make this country work.
But did he learn anything from Rome when he said that? Was he building on some understanding of how the Romans got it wrong when they tried to expand? What's the difference? Why shouldn't I say, oh, Hamilton, you got that wrong. I'm all scared we're going to collapse now.
Well, I think part of the thing that happened was the founders were prepared for this. They said we're going to create a republic, and we're going to do it within our states, and we're prepared to do that. The Roman Republic stemmed out of, it led to a Roman Empire, and it happened because Rome was conquering places. So I think the fact that the founders were prepared to do what was necessary to sustain the Republic.
But I think it should be duly noted that the Anti-Federalists were terrified at this idea. They were so scared that spreading out across America that they wouldn't be able to keep control, and that in fact Roman Republic would repeat itself in America.
I also think it's important to point out that the Roman government was set up to govern essentially a city-state, wherein things such as a citizen soldier and civic participation were beyond necessary, or were absolutely necessary, and more so than maybe we have in America with a representative government that we do.
I think the underlying theme is that they learned from the Roman Republic, and thus they instituted that if they were going to expand, they needed representation from all these places that they were going to expand to.
Thank you very much. It's the last day, it's over, but nonetheless our instructions are we're supposed to give you some feedback.
I really enjoyed our conversation. It was very well thought out. Your presentation as a whole and your discussion was extraordinarily well done. I continue to find myself suspicious of the voice of the people, the will of the people. That I've just seen in history too many tyrants come to power on what they claim to be the will of the people. And I suspect the framers were very much concerned about that as well. They were in many ways an aristocracy, and they knew it. So I wish we had time to have more conversation about that. But I thought the conversation we did have was insightful, and I learned a great deal listening to you. I appreciate your willingness to take on Hobbes and Gibbon and some very difficult people. Thank you.
Yeah, I felt like we could go on for another hour talking about Roman history. I mean, I think there's a lot of energy coming out of your group. I like the way you went back and forward, back in time and forward, back in time and forward again. I think you did a really nice job, and I also like the way you brought the modern world into this. You know, studying history in a vacuum is just reading about what happened if you can't apply it to where we are today. I would have loved to have challenged you a little bit more on this whole notion of tyranny. I was kind of hoping we would get to this whole notion of polling and electronics and technology, because I don't think the founding fathers had any idea what awaited them, and if they did, Madison probably would have Federalist 39 wouldn't have come out the way it did. But I'm not a historian, as my colleague both colleagues on my left are. One thing I think you need to be very careful about. This is a lesson in life, because if we don't share the constructive things, we want you to walk out of here better than when you entered. Be careful on these issues that you don't interject personal views, because it's tricky. And part of our job, frankly, is to kind of throw that at you and see if you can go back to history and go back to politics. And so we tried to throw you off a little bit, but you kept kind of coming back, which is good. So.
And I'll disagree to a certain extent if I understood it correctly. I'm very interested in your views. I want to know what's behind them. I want to know whether, in a sense, solidly grounded and defended and so on. But it certainly just isn't. We're not here to just talk public policy. I thought you did a terrific job with your opening statement. And even more so, you just kept going back. Every time we would ask you a question to try to get you into modern times or only up to the Constitutional Convention, you had us right back to Rome. You stayed with the question. That's really hard to do, and it's exemplary. A couple of areas where I would hope you'd look a little more is, go take a look at how that Electoral College came out of the convention. It wasn't just not trusting the people. There's a serious problem. We can't define citizenship. We can't define who votes. How can you have popular elections if the states are in control of the game? The convention was struggling with issues that are much more complex than we tend to want to make them today. Similarly, federalism, for Madison, a disaster. He's trying to explain it away in Federalist 39. He's not defending it. It's a dialogue. He said, oh my God, I lost something awful at the convention. How do I try to make it look good? So what we have made into a principle that may save us from becoming Rome may have been because of the bullying of the slave states at the convention. What an interesting thought, that we get a good result based on a bad motive. It's a possibility. Any event, just those are the kinds of things I would hope you would continue to struggle with. And of course, that big question is Rome repeating itself today is the one that you've given us a lot of good things to think about as we confront that question. Thank you very much, and congratulations again.
Thank you.